Sudanese cuisine. Sudan is a country located in northeastern Africa. It is characterized by its arid landscapes and political turmoil. Sudan has a population of close to 40 million and a diverse range of ethnic groups and languages. Islam is Sudan's predominant religion. Since it gained its independence from Britain and Egypt in 1956, Sudan has been plagued by civil war, mostly between militaristic Arab governments and non-Muslim groups in the south of Sudan. In 2011, South Sudan became its own country as a result of a nationwide vote. However, violence continues to this day, resulting in millions of displaced people and refugees. A 2011 census showed that Australia is home to about 20,000 of these refugees and migrants. Because of the trauma these refugees have encountered prior to immigration, resettlement in Australia has been difficult for many. Most Sudanese migrants to Australia have settled in capital cities. A number of factors shape cuisine in Sudan, from Islamic principles to scarcities caused by regional conflicts and political unrest. Sudan's harsh climate and low rainfall also influence food production and availability.
Foods that are consumed in every country in the world are affected differently by various dominant factors. These factors, such as religion, social gatherings and celebrations, geography, economy, environment, and conflict, all affect the food consumed by Sudanese people. The majority of the population of Sudan follow Islamic religion. This has a substantial impact on the food they eat, as Muslims only consume halal food and avoid haram foods, and also go through periods of fasting. In Arabic, halal means permitted, and haram translates to forbidden. The main haram foods are pork, alcohol, and drugs. Although pork is not to be eaten, other meat and poultry can be consumed if they follow strict rules in order to be halal. Some of these rules state the animal must be alive before being slaughtered, the animal must be slaughtered in the name of Allah, and the animal must be slaughtered in a way that it can be drained of all its blood. When eating in any setting in Sudan, whether public or private, casual or formal, dining etiquette is very important. Usually, men and women eat separately from one another, and food is eaten with the hands, traditionally with the right hand. Many different occasions are celebrated by Sudanese people, various of which are religious celebrations that involve some type of food. Eid al-Fitr, the breaking of the Ramadan fast, usually involves getting together for a large shared meal with lots of family and friends. The Eid al-Adha is another very sacred Islamic holiday, in which an animal is sacrificed and part of the meat from the animal is given to the poor. Sudan has a very harsh tropical climate, with temperatures reaching the low to mid-40s in summer. This ultimately has a big impact on their food security. Irregular patterns of rain result in Sudan experiencing intense droughts and floods. Over time, the droughts have caused damage to the harvests and ruined the soil, leaving large areas dry and unusable for crops. Floods have also caused irreversible damage to the crops over the years. Irregular rainfall in Sudan also affects the water supply, as in 2016, over 80% of the population relied on rainfall for their water supply. While this limited rainfall affects the agriculture and water supply, it also affects the livestock production. Not being able to maintain the livestock with suitable terrain and water means that even more food sources are compromised in Sudan. The types of soil in Sudan can be divided into three predominant categories: dry sandy desert, clay soil, and sandy soil. The clay soil is important as it is used in some areas to grow staple crops such as sorghum. This clay soil is specifically utilised closer to the Nile, as this is where irrigation systems are in place, with pumps distributing water to the crops from the river. In other areas further away from rivers, the soil is much drier and can be hard to use for agriculture. Sudan is one of the poorest countries in the world, with people earning very little income and almost half the population living in poverty. This clearly has a massive effect on the food security of the people of Sudan. The World Food Programme works in Sudan to distribute food to those who cannot get it, prevent malnutrition, and in various other important areas. Since the independence of South Sudan in 2011, there has been ongoing conflict between some southern Sudanese states. This conflict has affected the lives of many, more specifically causing a rise in food insecurity. Those near areas of conflict are in direct threat as they are not able to have access to the agriculture around them. Since the outbreak of this conflict, South Kordofan, a Sudanese province, has lost access to vast amounts of farmland. The majority of people from this province were displaced from their homes due to the conflict and now live in swampy areas which are entirely unusable for agriculture.
There are many national dishes unique to Sudan. These dishes are generally simple and made from local ingredients. We spoke to Mrs. Sabah Abraham, the founder of the restaurant Moose, about traditional meals from Sudan.
Well, the traditional Sudanese dishes is molokhia is a Sudanese dish which is a Northeast African spinach. Basically, it mixes with meat. You can mix it with pork or lamb or beef or chicken, and then you put dili on it. That's one of the traditional dish in Sudan. Early morning they drink milk and tea. They call it shah laban, which is milk and tea, with a bread. And then around 10 o'clock, which is in Sudanese culture is really a big thing, they have a big breakfast.
Okay.
Really big breakfast. In my experience, they don't eat a big dinner, but they eat a big breakfast and then a big lunch, which is almost dinner time in Australia.
Yeah. A traditional day of eating consists of only 2 meals, breakfast and dinner. Breakfast begins with a cup of tea or coffee. Coffee is prepared with coffee beans that have been fried over hot charcoals and then ground with ginger, cloves and spices. It is then strained through a sieve, sweetened with sugar and served in tiny china cups. Breakfast is eaten in the mid to late morning around 9 to 11 a.m. It is the most important meal of the day. It generally consists of bean dishes like full madams and bread kisra, or a porridge of asida. Dinner is eaten at around 3 p.m. after everyone has finished work. Depending on the financial situation of the family, dinner can vary from stews such as bamia, an okra and lamb stew. Stews are generally made from dried meats, onions, spices and peanut butter. However, to the poorer social class, dinner could be a simple affair of kisra or just tea. The Sudanese love anything sweet, from adding sugar to their hot drinks to sweets. Baklava is a popular sweet pastry made from honey and nuts. Zalabia is a deep-fried sweet similar to a donut. Fruits such as mango, bananas and grapefruits are enjoyed across the country depending on the availability and location. Dates are a popular dried fruit which are grown from the top of the Egyptian border in the north all the way to the River Nile south. With around 97% of the Sudanese population adhering to a Muslim faith, many of their festive celebrations are centered around the Islamic faith. Ramadan is an eagerly awaited celebration in Sudan. Preparations begin weeks in advance for the month of Ramadan, which happens on the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, and is a month of fasting to commemorate the first revelation of the Quran to Muhammad according to Islamic belief. During the fast, they will eat their meals before sunset and after sunset with no food in between. A typical meal consumed throughout the month is mulla waika, cooked dry okra stew, mulla rob, curdled milk, onions and flour, taken with kisra or either coffee or tea. At the end of the month of Ramadan, there is a big celebration to conclude the holy month, which is called Eid al-Fitr. There are mass celebrations across the mosques throughout the country. Families gather for a feast, exchange gifts, and reflect the month of Ramadan. These feasts consist of asida with a tomato sauce base. They will visit neighbors, and sweets such as kak, a sugar cookie, will be exchanged. Many of the Sudanese immigrants in Australia are refugees. Upon arriving in Australia, they have limited English language, which in turn has impact on their settlement in Australia. Due to poor English skills, they have experienced health issues such as malnutrition because of the Sudanese community have been unable to read food labels in supermarkets, resulting in either going hungry or not eating properly. A popular cooking ingredient in Sudanese food is sorghum flour. Sorghum is Australia's third largest grown crop. However, that being said, it is primarily fed to livestock. The flour isn't something that is found in the grocery store, but in specialty stores. Kisara bread and asida porridge, both are traditionally made with sorghum flour. However, the Sudanese communities have adapted these recipes to use rice flour and corn flour, which can be bought in the supermarket.
Australian dietary guidelines is to provide information to the public in what is best for their health and well-being. The guideline contains information on the types of amounts of food groups, as well as dietary patterns that aim for a balanced diet and reduce the risk of diet-related conditions such as high cholesterol and obesity. Australian Guide to Healthy Eating recommends a quantity of daily intake from 5 food groups. These 5 food groups are grains, vegetables, fruits, dairies, and proteins. In contrast, Sudan is a less developed, low-income and food deficit country. The climate in Sudan is one of the causes for insufficient availability of food. Sudanese diet generally consists of grains, beans, fruits, and vegetables. Sources of meat and fish in the country are limited. Their daily intake mainly consists of staple foods such as kisra bread and asida porridge. Stews made of beans, vegetables, and occasionally meat is added when they could afford. Sudanese generally share a tray of food with the whole family at the end of the day. Even though Sudanese consume food that is similar to Australian Guide's 5 food groups, they only consume 2 main meals a day. Their daily food intake is much lesser. The guideline recommends that average adult to consume 6 serves of grains, 5 serves of vegetables, 2 serves of fruit, 2 to 3 serves of lean meat, and 2.5 serves of dairy products daily. Even though Sudanese consume sufficient vegetables, but only half of the quantity from the rest of the food groups.
Poor consumption of food, health implications in Sudan arise. Micronutrient deficiencies are one of the major public health problems in Sudan. The prevalence of vitamin A deficiency among children in preschool is very high, as well as iron deficiency, in which common to the children under 5 years and those who are in the productive age. Socioeconomic, poor nutrition, as well as mother's knowledge and feeding practices lead to the rapid rise in the prevalence of malnutrition. Malnutrition is the most significant nutritional disorder in developing countries, as it also remains classified as one of the most causes of morbidity and mortality amongst children in Sudan or even worldwide. Studies presented that Sudanese children who are under 5 years old are in critical nutrition situation, wherein there is a 41% children who are underweight and 15% severely underweight, particularly those that live in some rural areas. Overall, from assessing the Sudanese diet comparing to the Australian standard, it is definitive that Sudanese diet are lacking the quantity of foods for the 5 food groups. Therefore, more work needs to be done to help increase the poor nutrition standards in Sudan, together with making sure Sudanese-born people living in Australia are educated to best balance the diet to gain all nutrients while staying true to their traditional cuisine.